The absolute chaos began the moment we learned that Jens had managed to escape his captors. If you ask me, the writers have been building this tension masterfully over the past few months, but the immediate consequence of his sudden disappearance is what truly sets this tragic wheel in motion. With Jens gone, the clandestine supply of that highly specific, stroke simulating drug intended for Drew was abruptly and permanently cut off. There were no more hidden vials, no more secret deliveries in the dead of night, and absolutely no more borrowed time. The medical reality set in with a chilling, inescapable finality. Without that continuous chemical suppression flowing through his veins, the artificial paralysis would inevitably fade. Drew is going to wake up, and when he does, he will regain his full physical faculties, his powerful voice, and most dangerously, his memories of everything that was done to him. The sheer panic that washed over Willow in that realization was palpable through the television screen. We could see the exact moment the metaphorical hourglass shattered in her mind, leaving her drowning in a sea of her own impending doom. Willow has always been presented to us as a beacon of morality, a gentle soul who initially came into our lives as a dedicated teacher and a compassionate nurse who wanted nothing more than to heal the world. To see her now, trapped in a suffocating web of her own deceit, is a testament to how sheer desperation can twist even the purest of hearts. Recognizing that her time was rapidly running out, her first instinct was flight. She frantically discussed a desperate escape plan with Nina, contemplating packing her bags and vanishing into the night before the explosive truth could ruin her carefully constructed, perfect life. But running away is the coward's way out, and it lacks the dramatic weight we expect from a true legacy character. Then came the twist that truly made me gasp out loud in my living room. In a moment of sheer, unadulterated panic, Willow proposed an alternative that was so intensely selfish it left me completely reeling. She suggested that Nina take the absolute fall for the entire conspiracy. Yes, you heard that correctly. Willow wanted her own mother to confess to the authorities, to take the full blame for the drugging, and to rot in a cold prison cell so that Willow could maintain her pristine life, her freedom, and her family. Yeah. If you ask me, this was a devastating, almost unforgivable blow to Willow's character integrity. To look your mother in the eye and ask her to sacrifice the rest of her life for your own malicious mistakes is a level of darkness we rarely see from our supposed heroines. And what breaks my heart the most is Nina's reaction to this monstrous proposal. Any veteran fan knows the tragic, agonizing history of Nina's journey into motherhood. She spent decades locked away in a coma, cruelly robbed of the chance to raise her children, carrying a gaping, bleeding wound in her soul that has never truly healed. Her desperate, all-consuming need for her daughter's love and acceptance is her ultimate tragic flaw, a vulnerability that has been exploited time and time again. When Willow presented this horrific request, Nina did not immediately refuse with the righteous anger one might expect. Instead, we saw the agonizing wheels turning in her mind. She was actually willing to consider it. She was ready to throw away her future, her hard-won freedom, and her happiness, all for the sake of the daughter who has spent years rejecting and judging her. It is a profound, heartbreaking testament to the twisted, self-destructive nature of unconditional love. But just as Nina was about to cross that sacrificial threshold and throw her life away, Jack intervened. Oh, Jack. He represents the ruthless, calculated pragmatism of the modern era, a man who operates entirely outside the boundaries of conventional morality and sentimentality. When he discovered the absurd, sacrificial plan Willow had concocted, his reaction was nothing short of explosive. He fiercely objected, his voice cutting through the thick emotional manipulation in that room like a sharpened blade. Jack recognized instantly that this plan was not only incredibly dangerous but fundamentally flawed in its execution. It threatened to pull all three of them into an inescapable legal nightmare that would end with everyone in chains. He was absolutely not about to let Nina destroy herself for a daughter who would so callously demand such a monumental sacrifice. The confrontation that followed was a brilliant masterclass in tense, character-driven drama. The three-way argument between Nina, Willow, and Jack was electric, vibrating with unspoken resentments and desperate survival instincts. Each person in that room was fighting a completely different war. Nina was fighting blindly for her daughter's elusive love, Willow was fighting selfishly for her own freedom and reputation, and Jack was fighting for cold logic and self-preservation. The dialogue might as well have been physical blows, as they systematically tore down each other's defenses and exposed their deepest hypocrisies. It is in these claustrophobic, high-stakes moments that the concept of long-term storytelling truly shines, as decades of resentment, crushing guilt, and fierce protective instincts collide in a single, explosive scene. When every possible escape route seemed completely blocked by logic or fear, Jack threw down a proposal that chilled me to the absolute bone. With the cold, unfeeling demeanor of a seasoned operative who has seen the darkest corners of the world, he suggested a much more permanent, ruthless solution. Why risk the unpredictability of a prison sentence? Why risk a lifetime of running and looking over your shoulder? The only way to truly sever the risk and keep the dark secret buried forever was to eliminate the source of the threat entirely. Jack proposed that they kill Drew. It was a terrifying moment that shifted the entire narrative from a desperate, panicked cover up to cold, premeditated murder. The sheer audacity of the deadly suggestion hung in the air, heavy, suffocating, and impossible to ignore. And this is where we witness the ultimate tragic fall from grace. Willow, the former nurse, who once swore a sacred oath to save lives and protect the vulnerable, found herself slowly agreeing to this lethal proposition. The psychological transformation was horrifying and deeply compelling to watch. She crossed a moral event horizon from which there is absolutely no return, abandoning every principle she ever claimed to hold dear. Armed with a medical syringe filled with a deadly, fast-acting poison provided by Jack, Willow prepared to do the unthinkable. The visual of her holding that needle, the clinical coldness of the instrument of death, contrasting sharply with the wild, emotional turmoil in her eyes, is a cinematic image that will be burned into my memory for a very long time. The journey to Drew's room felt like a slow, agonizing descent into complete madness. Every single step Willow took down that sterile hospital corridor was heavy with the crushing weight of her impending sin. We watched her stand over Drew, observing his vulnerable, incapacitated state as he lay oblivious to the angel of death hovering above him. He was completely defenseless, entirely at her mercy, trusting the very institution that was about to be used to end his life. The internal battle she fought in those agonizing seconds was palpable. We could almost hear her conscience screaming at her to stop, to drop the deadly syringe, to find another way that did not involve crossing the ultimate line. But the fierce instinct for self-preservation, fueled by the dark, pragmatic seeds planted by Jack, proved far too strong to resist. She raised the deadly needle, her hands trembling, ready to extinguish a human life just to save her own skin. But as any seasoned viewer of this genre knows, the universe of our beloved soap opera rarely allows such dark, calculated deeds to go unpunished. Just at the crucial, heart-stopping moment of decision, when the needle was mere inches from its target, the door suddenly opened. It was Little Scout. The sudden, unexpected appearance of this innocent child stepping into a room thick with murderous intent completely shattered the dark, suffocating spell that had consumed Willow. The sheer, blinding panic of being caught in the very act of murder by a sweet, unsuspecting child sent Willow into an absolute frenzy. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly from cold, premeditated calculation to absolute, unbridled chaos. In the frantic, terrified struggle to hide the syringe, desperately cover up her deadly intentions before Scout could comprehend what was happening, a clumsy physical altercation ensued. It was messy, desperate, and entirely tragic to witness. And then came the moment of poetic justice that left me physically gasping for air. In the chaotic jumble of panicked limbs and sudden movements, the needle found a target, but it was not Drew. The lethal syringe accidentally plunged directly into Willow's own skin, injecting the deadly toxin into her own bloodstream. The look of pure, unadulterated shock that registered on her face as she realized what had just happened was a masterstroke of dramatic acting. The hunter had instantly become the prey. The cold executioner had tragically become the victim of her own lethal design. The immediate aftermath was a terrifying, visceral display of consequences catching up with a sinner. The poison, specifically designed to be swift, silent, and untraceable, began to course through Willow's veins almost instantly. We watched in horror as her strength evaporated, her breath catching painfully in her throat as the deadly substance went to work destroying her own body. She was thrust into immediate, life-threatening danger, facing the very agonizing death she had so coldly planned for another human being. It is a profound, deeply tragic irony that the very instrument she believed would be her ultimate salvation became the undeniable weapon of her own destruction. This spectacular, devastating turn of events leaves us with so many profound questions about the future of our beloved characters. What happens to the intricate super couple dynamics now that this darkness has been exposed? How will Nina possibly survive the potential agonizing loss of the daughter she was just willing to go to a federal prison for? Will Jack feel even a single ounce of remorse for setting this deadly, chaotic chain of events in motion, or will he simply fade into the shadows? The massive ripple effects of this single, disastrous mistake will undoubtedly alter the emotional landscape of these core families for years, perhaps even decades to come. This is exactly the kind of gripping, edge of your seat drama that reminds me exactly why I have dedicated so many years of my life to watching these intertwined lives unfold on my screen. To conclude, while the sheer, suffocating darkness of Willow's choices deeply unsettled my spirit, I cannot deny the absolute brilliance of the narrative execution, the deliberate pacing, the incredibly high emotional stakes, and that final, devastating twist of fate were nothing short of soap opera perfection. It is breathtaking moments like these that reaffirm my steadfast, unwavering passion for this show. Even when the storylines push our beloved characters into dark, unrecognizable territory, the emotional payoff remains completely unparalleled in television history. We are left sitting on the edge of our seats, breathlessly waiting for tomorrow, completely and utterly invested in the survival, the elusive redemption, and the inevitable, catastrophic fallout of these tragic choices.